Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. I want to talk about the reason Bitcoin is falling in value again. Today there is big news in crypto. A $50 billion scheme to buy back government bonds is about to start in the United States. In August, they bought back $8.5 billion. In September, they bought back $31.5 billion. And in October, they bought back another $10 billion. What does this mean for people who hold cryptocurrency? The printers are back on. What is a buyback of government bonds? We need to look over this info right away because these buybacks are more important than you think. This is the money store. As of now, the Federal Reserve has not done anything. The Fed isn't buying right now. The Fed is selling. At this point, the Treasury has chosen, well, we'll just step in and buy that ourselves. Yes, we will have to pay back every single dollar. Will this have the same effect on crypto prices as the last time QE happened? But learn about the people who sold Bitcoin, which is why it crashed. If you look back at what was going on a week or two ago, we were very happy. BTC was worth 70,000. It's now in the low 50,000. There's been no change. As you can see, Bitcoin is still the world's biggest computer network. More than 100 million people still believe this. We still have one of the best debasement hedges in the business world. That's why I believe this is a classic warning, where this fear and panic hit, making the stock market go crazy. People sell when they get to their accounts. But if you look at the basics, nothing has changed in the end. Things that are important haven't changed. But again, who is selling? Even though the crypto market crashed, BlackRock, MicroStrategy, Fidelity, and Grayscale all sold no Bitcoin. In fact, they're getting it. The building up has not stopped. Who must be the sellers? Many of these sellers are just looking to make quick money, if you look closely. All of a sudden, the price goes against them, and sometimes by a lot. So they start to sell. There is still more than half of all Bitcoin held by people who have strong hands for the long run. This is what I find really interesting. It's been over a year since they sold or moved their Bitcoin, so half of the stock that is moving around is not liquid. That makes it less likely that Bitcoin will go down even more. Yes, a decline of 25% or more is big, but we used to see them as high as 30% to 40%. Due to this, these drawdowns are not as strong as they were in previous rounds. Getting these short-term traders out of the market and giving their Bitcoin to people who will hold on to it for a long time is normal. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And the big news outlets won't tell you this. I'll do it. That's why you choose Altcoin Daily. New. The 15,000 managers at Morgan Stanley will start selling Bitcoin ETFs tomorrow. This is one of the big wirehouses that manages funds worth more than $6.3 trillion. They can now finally sell Bitcoin to their clients. People who work at wirehouses like Morgan Stanley, UBS, Merrill Lynch at B of A, and Wells Fargo are the ones who get most of our business. None of them have agreed to let Bitcoin use their site. That hasn't even taken place yet. Also, those are our main clients. Wait until you see what happens. An explosion. And Michael Saylor on CNBC Today compared a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve, that is, the U.S. buying Bitcoin to the Louisiana Purchase. Senator Loomis has suggested legislation that would allow the U.S. to do this. You believe it's smart to keep some Bitcoin in a backup? Well, in 1803, Thomas Jefferson paid $15 million for the land that is now Louisiana. This made the United States almost twice as big. Alaska was bought by Seward for $7 million. There is $1 trillion worth of oil under it. Cyberspace is where everyone is going to do business. Bitcoin is a valuable digital asset that is hard to get. Putting up a little cash in exchange for a place where a lot of people will want to be in 100 years is a great idea. I agree with you, it's a good thought. Knowing all of that and knowing that there are very bullish factors at play in the long run and that short-term liquidity affects everything is very important. Because of this, we're seeing buybacks in traditional markets to boost the economy and cash. This is why the government started its Treasury buyback program. It's not either or because it's before the Fed rate cut. The Fed rate cut is going to happen. It's certain that at least 25 bips will happen in September and maybe even more. There is now a good chance that the federal funds rate will go down by 75 basis points in September. This includes a 25 basis point cut, a 50 basis point cut, and now a 75 basis point cut. It goes without saying that something like this would be important for risky investments like crypto by itself. The budget of the current administration wants to get this going. The goal of this move is to control the amount of government bonds on the market and keep money flowing. It looks like the current government doesn't want the markets to crash just yet. For the Democrats, the official ticket is now Tim Walz as Kamala's running mate. What they think about crypto? Well, neither of them has said what they think about crypto in public. They have a chance with this. Inaction leads to silence. To be clear, I love this 40-second video that showed what a government buyback is. What is a buyback of government bonds? So simple as it sounds, it means paying off your loan early. So let's say you have a car loan that is coming due or that you plan to pay off. You could pay it all off today and not have to worry about it until 4 years from now. And what you're doing is pretty much the same as what the government does during a government buyback. They owe money and will have to pay it off in full, say in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years. They don't want to wait that long to pay back their debt, so they plan to do it all at once. Also, you may remember that they started doing buybacks a few months ago on much smaller terms. Over the last few months, they've been doing very small buybacks to see how the system works. More importantly, from 2000 to 2002, the US Treasury ran a huge scheme to buy back bonds. This really only tells me one thing: it's not as important as the money printing we saw. It's not as important yet during the COVID pandemic crash of 2020. This is another big step forward because a different part of the government, the Treasury in this case, is saying, hey, we see a problem. There's a lack of liquidity. We will stimulate the economy to avoid a short-term collapse. In order to pay for these buybacks, they are instead taking out short-term loans, putting out T-bills. In other words, Bitcoin will benefit from this. In one meme, I put up my case for investing in Bitcoin. It's pretty clear. There's no way to know what the markets will do in a month, let alone a day. But I see this wick from Bitcoin's last big drop as pretty positive. It shows how quickly we were bought up. Now keep in mind that even during that huge correction in 2020, we saw a huge drop in price, and the wick was quickly bought up. But even in the days that followed, it was chop solidation because the market needed to feel safe again. I think that the chop will solidify in the same way in the coming days and weeks.